I watched a drunk man corner the most powerful woman in the room at a charity gala. He had no idea she owned half the luxury hotels in the country. But what happened next shocked everyone, especially when the quiet security officer revealed a skill nobody saw coming. Before we dive into this incredible story, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. You won't believe how this ends. And stick around until the very end. There's a twist that'll leave you speechless. Now, let me tell you what I witnessed that night. I'm a photographer, not the glamorous kind you're thinking about. I don't shoot fashion shows or celebrity weddings. I do corporate events, charity galas, fundraisers, the kind of work where I'm invisible. People look right through me because I'm just the person capturing their smiling faces for the foundation's website, and honestly, I prefer it that way. Being invisible means I see everything. 3 months ago, I was hired to photograph the annual Youth Education Gala at the Grand Sterling Hotel downtown. This wasn't just any event. Tickets started at $5,000 a plate. The guest list read like a who's who of the city's elite: business owners, politicians, old money families, new money entrepreneurs, everyone dressed to impress, dripping in diamonds and designer labels. The ballroom looked like something out of a movie, with crystal chandeliers the size of compact cars and an orchestra playing soft classical music in the corner. I arrived early, as always, to scout locations and test the lighting. That's when I first saw her. Victoria Laurent. She was standing alone by one of the tall windows overlooking the city, holding a glass of sparkling water. Not champagne. Water. She wore a simple navy dress, elegant but understated. No flashy jewelry, no designer handbag on display. Her hair was pulled back in a neat bun, and she had this calm, peaceful expression on her face as she gazed out at the city lights. Most people at the event had no idea who she was. Victoria Laurent doesn't do interviews. She doesn't post on social media. She doesn't pose for magazine covers. But I knew exactly who she was because I'd photographed one of her hotel openings 2 years earlier. Victoria Laurent owns the Laurent Luxury Hospitality Group, 47 five-star hotels across North America. Forbes estimated her net worth at $8.3 billion. Yes, billion with a B. But here's what makes Victoria different from every other billionaire I've ever photographed. She started as a housekeeper. 30 years ago, she was cleaning rooms at a budget motel, sending money back home to support her family. She worked her way up: front desk, management, regional director. She saved every penny, took business courses at night, and eventually bought her first small hotel with a loan she almost didn't get. Now she's one of the most successful hoteliers in the country, and she's never forgotten where she came from. Every Laurent hotel prioritizes hiring people from disadvantaged backgrounds. She's funded over 2,000 college scholarships. The woman is a living legend, and she was standing there alone, unbothered, just watching the world go by. I was across the room adjusting my camera when I heard the commotion. Loud laughter, the kind that demands attention. Preston Whitmore III had arrived. I'd seen Preston at these events before, and I'd learned to stay out of his way. Real estate developer, inherited wealth, the kind of man who thinks money makes him superior to everyone else. He was already drunk, stumbling slightly, his face flushed red. 3 of his business associates followed behind him, laughing at every terrible joke he made. Preston was loud, obnoxiously loud. He made inappropriate comments about women walking past. He complained about the wine selection, snapped his fingers at waiters, and generally acted like he owned the place. Several guests moved away from him, uncomfortable. I watched Victoria notice the disturbance, and I saw her quietly shift position, moving toward a different part of the room. She was trying to avoid him, but Preston spotted her. I'll never forget the look on his face. He squinted, tilted his head, and then this smug smile spread across his face. He started walking toward her with that aggressive confidence drunk people have when they think they're being charming. His friends followed, sensing entertainment. "Excuse me," Preston said, his voice carrying across the room. "Are you with the catering staff? We need more champagne over here." Victoria turned slowly. Her expression didn't change. "I'm not with the catering staff," she said calmly. I'm a guest. Preston laughed. Actually laughed in her face. A guest? At this event? He looked back at his friends who were snickering. Sweetheart, do you have any idea how much tickets cost for this thing? I think there's been some mistake. I felt my stomach drop. Other people were starting to notice now. Conversations quieted. Phones came out. I raised my camera instinctively, not sure if I should document this or intervene. Victoria's voice remained steady. There's no mistake. I was invited just like everyone else. Invited? Preston stepped closer, invading her space. By who? Are you someone's assistant? Did you come with one of the actual guests? The way he emphasized actual made my skin crawl. I came alone, Victoria said. Now, if you'll excuse me. She tried to step around him, but Preston moved to block her path. His face was getting redder, his voice louder. Hold on, I want to know who authorized you to be here. This is an exclusive event. We can't just have anyone walking in off the street. The implications in his words were crystal clear. He wasn't questioning her invitation. He was questioning whether someone who looked like her belonged in a room full of wealthy white people. Several guests gasped. Someone whispered, "Oh my God." But nobody moved. Nobody stepped in. They just watched and recorded. Preston reached out and grabbed Victoria's arm. "I'm talking to you. You don't walk away from me." That's when I saw him. Officer Leonard Hayes. He'd been standing in the corner near the entrance for the entire event. Honestly, I'd barely noticed him. He was wearing a standard security uniform, navy blue, radio on his belt, hands clasped in front of him. He was older, maybe early 60s, with gray hair and kind eyes. He looked like a grandfather, the kind of security guard you'd see at any hotel, friendly but forgettable. Except Officer Hayes wasn't forgettable. Not anymore. He walked across the ballroom with this measured, confident stride. Not rushing, not aggressive, just purposeful. When he reached Preston and Victoria, he spoke in this calm, quiet voice that somehow commanded attention. "Sir, I'm going to need you to step back and release this woman's arm." Preston spun around, still gripping Victoria's arm. "Who the hell are you? Hotel security?" He sneered. "Go back to your corner, old man. This doesn't concern you." Officer Hayes didn't react, didn't get angry, didn't raise his voice. He simply pulled out a small notebook and a pen from his pocket and started writing. Preston blinked, confused. "What are you doing?" "Taking notes," Hayes said simply, still writing. "Notes? Of what?" Preston's friends were laughing again, but it sounded nervous now. Hayes looked up, made direct eye contact with Preston, and then did something that made the entire room go silent. He turned to Victoria and spoke in perfect, fluid French. "Madame Laurent, êtes-vous blessée? Souhaitez-vous que j'appelle la police?" Victoria's eyes widened in surprise. She responded in French, "Non, je vais bien, merci Leonard." Preston's face went confused. What are you doing? Speak English." Hayes turned to the hotel's venue manager, who was Asian American, and spoke in flawless Mandarin Chinese. The manager's jaw dropped. He responded quickly, and Hayes nodded. Then Hayes turned to one of the waiters and spoke rapid Spanish, receiving another stunned reply. Finally, Hayes looked back at Preston and switched to English. "I'm documenting this incident in multiple languages to ensure we have comprehensive witness statements. You see, sir, I have an unusual skill set." "A skill set?" Preston sputtered. "You're a security guard." "I'm a retired FBI linguistics expert," Hayes said calmly, still writing in his notebook. "I worked 32 years in the Federal Bureau of Investigation's Language Services section. I speak 12 languages fluently. I specialized in interrogation techniques, behavioral analysis, and de-escalation protocols." The room was dead silent. You could have heard a pin drop. Hayes continued, his voice never rising above that calm, professional tone. "I now work part-time security for Laurent Luxury Hospitality Group because Mrs. Laurent hired me when other companies wouldn't. Said I was too old, she disagreed. And right now I'm exercising another skill I developed in the FBI. Photographic memory for verbal testimony." He looked directly at Preston. At 9:43 p.m., you approached Mrs. Victoria Laurent and asked if she was with the catering staff. When she identified herself as a guest, you stated, "Do you have any idea how much tickets cost for this thing?" implying she couldn't afford to attend. You then questioned her invitation, asked if she was someone's assistant, and stated, "We can't just have anyone walking in off the street." At 9:46 p.m., you physically grabbed her arm without consent, which constitutes assault under state law. Preston's face had gone from red to pale. I didn't. I have 17 witnesses, Hayes continued, gesturing around the room, 12 of whom are currently recording this interaction on their mobile devices. You also made several statements that could be interpreted as discriminatory harassment based on race. Mrs. Laurent has grounds for both assault charges and a civil rights complaint. Mrs. Laurent? Preston's voice cracked. What do you mean, Mrs. Laurent? That's when Victoria stepped forward. Her voice was quiet but carried across the entire ballroom. My name is Victoria Laurent. I own this hotel. I own the Grand Sterling Hotel where we're standing. I also own the property adjacent to your new development project on Riverside Avenue, the property you need to complete your luxury condominiums. Preston's eyes went wide. You own... I've been watching your business practices for some time, Mr. Whitmore. Victoria continued, the way you displace low-income families from their homes to build expensive housing, the discrimination lawsuits that keep getting settled quietly. I was actually considering giving you a chance tonight. I was going to introduce myself, discuss some community benefit requirements for your project. But I'm a firm believer in character, and you've shown me exactly who you are. She turned to Officer Hayes. Thank you, Leonard. I won't be pressing charges tonight, but I would like this documented with hotel management. Already done, ma'am, Hayes said with a small smile. Strategized narrative expansion to meet word count requirements. I'm at about 1,850 words. I need to get to 3,500 to 3,700 words. Let me continue with the aftermath, the ripple effects, and the deeper reflections to reach the target word count while maintaining the emotional impact and natural flow. Victoria looked back at Preston. As for you, Mr. Whitmore, I will not be selling you the Riverside property. Your project is effectively dead. I suggest you leave now, before I change my mind about those assault charges. Preston opened his mouth, closed it, then opened it again. No words came out. His business associates had already backed away, pretending they'd never been standing with him. Hotel management appeared, all Laurent employees, I realized, and politely but firmly escorted Preston toward the exit. He left without another word. The moment he was gone, the ballroom erupted. People surrounded Victoria, apologizing, introducing themselves, suddenly very eager to speak with her. But what struck me most was that Victoria didn't gloat. She didn't make a speech. She simply thanked people graciously, asked them to refocus on the charity they were there to support, and quietly excused herself. But before she walked away, she stopped at Officer Hayes's corner. I was close enough to hear her speak to him in what I think was Portuguese, then Arabic, then back to English. Thank you for always having my back, old friend. Hayes smiled warmly. That's what family does, Mrs. Laurent. How many times do I have to tell you? Call me Victoria. Old habits. He chuckled. I learned later that Officer Hayes wasn't just an employee. When he'd been forced into early retirement by other security companies who thought he was past his prime, Victoria had personally reached out to him. She'd read about his FBI career, his linguistic expertise, his perfect service record. She hired him on the spot and gave him freedom to work as much or as little as he wanted. He chose to work because, in his words, he liked staying sharp. He also ran training programs for all Laurent Hotel security staff, teaching de-escalation techniques and basic phrases in multiple languages. The gala continued, but the energy had shifted. People were quieter, more thoughtful. I noticed several guests making larger donations to the Youth Education Fund. By the end of the night, the charity had raised a record-breaking $2.7 million. I kept photographing, but my mind was elsewhere. I couldn't stop thinking about what I'd witnessed. Two people, both underestimated, both judged by their appearance. Victoria, assumed to be powerless because of how she looked, was actually the most powerful person in the room. Officer Hayes, dismissed as just another security guard, possessed skills that most people couldn't even dream of. The next morning, the videos went viral. By afternoon, Preston's story was everywhere. 3 of his major investors pulled out of his projects. The Riverside development collapsed. 2 banks declined to refinance his existing properties. Within a week, Preston Whitmore III had resigned from his own company, claiming he was taking time for personal reflection. Meanwhile, Victoria's quiet reputation grew. Stories emerged about her business practices, how she paid living wages, promoted from within, refused to displace communities for profit. Applications to work at Laurent hotels tripled. Business schools started using her as a case study in ethical leadership. Officer Hayes became something of a legend, too. Laurent Hospitality promoted him to head of security training across all 47 properties. He now teaches de-escalation tactics and language basics to security staff throughout the company. I heard he's working on a book about conflict resolution. But here's what stayed with me most. A week after the gala, I was editing photos from the event when I noticed something I'd missed that night. In the background of one shot, before Preston had even approached Victoria, Officer Hayes was already watching. He'd noticed the brewing situation before anyone else. He was already positioning himself, ready to intervene. That's 32 years of FBI training. That's someone who reads rooms the way most people read books. I printed that photo and sent it to Victoria with a note thanking her for teaching me something important that night. She sent back a handwritten response that I've kept on my desk ever since. It said, "The most powerful people in any room are often the quietest. Real strength doesn't need to announce itself, and the most valuable skills are the ones people don't see coming. Thank you for bearing witness." You know what changed for me after that night? Everything. I stopped making assumptions about people. That quiet janitor at the office building where I work? I learned he has a PhD in engineering from his home country and is recertifying his credentials. The elderly woman who bags groceries at my local store, former principal who retired and works because she likes staying active and talking to people, the young guy who parks cars at events. He's fluent in 6 languages and working his way through law school. We walk past extraordinary people every single day and never know it because we're trained to judge books by their covers. We see uniforms, age, skin color, job titles, and we think we know someone's whole story. We think we know their worth. But we don't know anything. Preston Whitmore made that mistake. He saw a black woman standing alone and assumed she didn't belong. He saw an older black security guard and assumed he was nobody. Those assumptions destroyed Preston's career and reputation. But here's the thing. Those assumptions were always destroying him. They were destroying his humanity, his ability to see people clearly, his chance to build something meaningful in the world. The gala just made it visible. Victoria and Officer Hayes didn't need to destroy Preston. He destroyed himself the moment he decided that his money made him better than other people. They just held up a mirror and let everyone else see what they'd already known about him. I think about that night every time I'm at an event now, every time I'm in a room full of people. I wonder who's being underestimated, who's being overlooked. Which quiet person in the corner has an extraordinary story? Which unassuming individual has skills that could change everything in an instant? The world is full of hidden abilities, hidden power, hidden brilliance. It's full of people like Victoria Laurent, who built empires from nothing and stayed humble. It's full of people like Officer Leonard Hayes, who mastered 12 languages and used those skills not for ego, but for service. It's full of people who've been underestimated their entire lives and turned that underestimation into fuel. And it's also full of people like Preston Whitmore, people so blinded by their own perceived superiority that they can't see the truth right in front of them until it's too late. The question is, which kind of person are you going to be? The one who judges based on appearance and position, or the one who looks deeper, who recognizes that every person you meet knows something you don't, has survived something you haven't, carries abilities you can't imagine? That night at the gala taught me that dignity is a weapon more powerful than any insult, that patience can defeat aggression, that skills matter infinitely more than status, and that real power, true power, is quiet, earned through years of hard work, and used not to dominate others but to protect and uplift them. Victoria Laurent could have humiliated Preston the moment he approached her. She could have announced who she was, had him thrown out immediately, destroyed him with a single sentence. But she didn't. She gave him rope and let him hang himself. She stayed dignified while he revealed his true character to everyone watching. Officer Hayes could have flexed his FBI credentials from the start, intimidated Preston with his authority. But he didn't. He stayed calm, documented everything properly, and let his skills speak for themselves only when necessary. Both of them understood something that Preston never will. The most devastating response to disrespect isn't anger or revenge. It's calm, unshakable dignity. It's letting someone's own actions condemn them while you stand there, unbothered, unbroken. I've been photographing events for 15 years. I've seen countless confrontations, arguments, petty dramas. But I've never seen anything like what happened that night. I've never seen someone so thoroughly defeated by their own behavior, or two people so thoroughly victorious through simple dignity and truth. That's the story I witnessed. That's the lesson I carry with me. And that's why I'll never forget the night a drunk real estate developer harassed a billionaire CEO and a quiet security officer with 12 languages ended it without raising his voice. Because in the end, the loudest person in the room is rarely the most powerful. The most powerful person is usually the one you didn't notice until the moment they decide you should. This story changed how I see everyone I meet. That quiet person in the corner? They might speak 12 languages. That modest woman by the window? She might own the building you're standing in. If this story moved you, smash that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear this message. Subscribe for more real stories about underestimated people who changed everything. Drop a comment telling me about a time someone surprised you with hidden talents. And remember, never judge a book by its cover. The most extraordinary people are often hiding in plain sight. See you in the next one.